The Institute for Faith and Freedom at Grove City College presents Liberty Mail with the Student Fellows of Faith and Freedom.
Welcome back to the Liberty Mail podcast. I'm your host, Ashby Abernathy, and today I'm joined by Isaac Willour, who is an analyst at Bowyer Research, America's leading pro-fiduciary proxy consulting firm. He is an award-winning journalist and a frequent commentator on ESG, DEI, and the culture war, with work in USA Today, National Review, and the Daily Wire, and the American Mind, and the Wall Street Journal. He's also a graduate of Grove City College. Mr. Willour has appeared on shows ranging from Fox News to New York Times Opinion, and can be found on X at Isaac Willour. Welcome, Isaac.
Dude, thanks for having me back on.
No, absolutely, yeah. So, Isaac, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, being an analyst at Bowyer Research?
Sure. So I manage what's called shareholder engagement. So Bowyer Research is a Pittsburgh-based firm. Our clients range from ordinary, like mom-and-pop investors, to red state pension funds, public funds of that nature. What we do is we use shareholder influence, so financial leverage, to push for non-biased policies. In many cases, that means combating ESG policies, combating DEI quota-esque policies at America's largest companies, JPMorgan, Pepsico, Apple, Meta, the like. That's the work that we do on the day-to-day. And then on the side, as you mentioned, I write for like a billion different places. And
absolutely.
that sort of thing. So that's what I come here to talk to you all about today.
Awesome. So you're here for our IFF annual conference, and you're going to be speaking on the alumni panel. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so the reason we're on the alumni panel, the title anyway, is where do we go from here? And I think that's a profoundly important question, especially if you're under about the age of 30, as all of us are. I think you are. We've never really talked about it, but I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Just from the clean-shaven face and everything. Where do we go from here is the question, right? Because there is a great deal of focus, and rightly so, in the conservative movement on where we've been, right? Conservative history, general history, right? These are all questions that inform our conception of ourselves as people, our conceptions of ourselves as a conservative movement, as a political movement, as a country. These are all important questions. But right now, we have to think about the future, right? We've been handed a, not unprecedented, but unexpected shift in the culture war, the political struggle in this country. We were handed an unexpected shift on that in November. We have to figure out how to make the most of that, because the worst thing that can happen right now, the revitalization of right-of-center thinking, the revitalization of right-of-center people, of right-of-center entities, is afoot, whether we want it to be or not, and we should all want it to be. And more than that, we should all want it to be we should want it to be done correctly, because the worst thing that can happen at this moment is that we blunder this. What does the future look like? How do we avoid the mistakes of the left, right? The left made many mistakes. This win in November and the broader vibe shift in the culture is the product of many things, among them tremendous mistakes from the left. Culturally, as a movement, as a coalition, right? The left made mistakes in all these areas. We have to, A, know those mistakes, and B, more importantly, learn from those mistakes. How do we avoid making them so we don't suffer the same fate? These are the questions that we have to answer. And I obviously come at this from a very specific angle, movement building, coalition building, and then obviously some of the corporate stuff thrown in. A couple of the other panelists come at it from the action side, the grassroots side, the comms side, the education side, a lot of different factors of these things. These are the questions that we have to answer, and hopefully we'll give good answers to them. But in about 50 minutes, I guess we'll find out.
Okay. Yeah, no, looking forward to it. Do you have any exciting projects, personal or otherwise, that you want to share with us?
We're building a movement that is, we get pigeonholed as we as in Bowyer Research and a lot of our allies in this space. We get pigeonholed as anti-ESG and anti-DEI very often. And it's really easy to fall into that. I'm sure I could go back and find a bunch of times where I've called ourselves an anti-ESG, anti-DEI firm. We're building a movement that is profoundly pro things. Going back to the question about where do we go from here, the biggest secret to where we go from here is to not just be the anti-left, right? Because we're not just the anti-left. We are pro-markets. We are pro-morality, right? We are pro the free and virtuous society and all the governmental and non-governmental things that lead to those sorts of things. But at Bowyer Research, we're building an ecosystem where investors, where public funds, where fiduciary officers in red states have the ability to bring their finances not only into alignment with their values, but put their finances actively to work for their values. This is what the left did for years, whether it's through none of the various shareholder advocacy avenues that we could talk about, but we don't have 70,000 hours to talk about it. Those, whether it's through the more traditional activism routes, politically or otherwise, what we're building is fundamentally something that is not predicated just on momentum. There's a lot to be said about momentum. Momentum's great. It's not just momentum, because good movements do not run solely based on vibes. We're building something that's based on actual capital being put to work by actual people, right? We talk about the term that we generally get lumped into, or the field that we generally get lumped into is shareholder activism. It's not just activism, right? It's authentic engagement by people who actually own a part of the financial future of the company they're involved in. They're not just owning shares in the company to do this.
Yeah.
They want the company to do well, whether it's Lockheed Martin, whether it's Apple, whether it's Meta. Our clients are all investors. They own a part of this company's future. It's their future too.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're building a world where people who are invested in that future are bringing that influence to bear to build a better future for those companies through political neutrality, through eschewing things like ESG and DEI, and refocusing themselves on fiduciary duty.
No, that's awesome. So you're obviously a recent graduate of Grove City College, and we're here back at the college. There's a lot of young people, a lot of people graduating soon. Do you have advice for them for what they need to be paying attention to when they graduate and go into the job field?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about the vocationality of college, like how well will college help me get a job. I think get comfortable with the idea that is not a one-to-one. You're not going to be able to look, at least now, right? I've been out of college for less than a year. It's very difficult to look back and see, oh yeah, I can point to one-to-one specific moments in college that exactly prepared me for these specific moments in life. I think you just need to be ready to be a little bit confused on that point, because you're not going to see. Hindsight is 20/20, but it takes time for kind of that smoke and fog to clear.
Yeah.
It's okay to just trust that the values that you've cultivated here at Grove City College and the ideas that you've learned, the conversations and the discussions that you've been steeped in, it's not going to become entirely clear what those were meant to be immediately. Because providence is not an immediate thing, right? There's this idea that providence means you'll always understand why everything had to be this way. It doesn't, right? Everything is put there for a reason, but it's not a reason that we all fundamentally are going to understand within an 8 to 12 month time period after, the last semester ends. It's okay, right? Graduating college is really confusing. It's terrifying in certain ways, especially the lead up to it, especially when combine that graduating with the jobs market part. There's a lot of, how do we put this nicely, abject terror that goes along with that. It's okay to be uncertain. It absolutely is. It's normal, right? These are all fine things. God does have a purpose for your life, and that will come clear in time. It just takes many forms, right? So when I was graduating, the immediate plan was that I was going to go be a journalist. I was going to be a career journalist. And through a variety of reasons, it was made abundantly clear to me that was not where this was going to go. And now I have a job in a growth industry in politics. Imagine a positive, optimistic, growth-oriented, future-oriented industry in politics of all places. Good heavens, right? I didn't know anything about this 2 years ago. Providence is unexpected. Providence will catch you when you're not expecting it, because God's thoughts are not our thoughts. And that's okay. And it's very easy. It's funny. I was having this discussion with an alumni like a week ago. It's very easy to say that your success has nothing to do with you when you're not successful, right? You think of like these. This is a hypothetical example, right? You think like these SoundCloud rappers who are like, yeah, God's glory alone. It wasn't me at all. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're a SoundCloud rapper with 5 monthly listeners. It's very obvious it wasn't you, right?
Yeah.
But if you're an intelligent, smart person, as most graduates from this college are, being able to say that God drove your success gets harder and harder the more actual capacity for success that you have. It takes humility. And in case you haven't noticed from my general bearing, humility is not my default. It's something that I've had to struggle with. I've had to be the idiot in the room many, many times. That's okay. Ask questions like you're the dumbest person in the room. But trust God like you're the most broken, not of yourself person without his help. Because you are. And if you just accept that and you lean into that, and you accept that sometimes answers are going to pop up in ways that you don't expect, that aren't on your timeline, it's going to be okay. at some point. You can deal with more of that than you think. And if you approach that with humility, you approach life with humility, and you approach life with humility, and you also build your skill set unapologetically. This is how authentic Christian formation happens. You're unapologetic about the way you engage the culture, right? That's all the work we do at Bowyer Research, right? We see investors every day putting their shares to work to influence the culture in tangible, authentic ways that have real payout. But also having the humility to know that it's not just you. That's kind of advice for someone who has a very similar personality to me. If you're not, that's less helpful, but you'll find someone else to get advice from.
No, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Isaac, for joining us. Do you want to tell people where they can find your work, find your writings, learn more about Bowyer Research?
Sure. Yeah. Check us out, BowyerResearch.com. That's where you find out the information about the financial stuff. I'm on Twitter or X, Isaac Willour. We'll put it in the show notes. That's where the primary communication happens. Okay. Then go on LinkedIn if you want to see a bunch of really wonky stuff about ESG and DEI policy.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Isaac.
For more information on Liberty Mail or the Institute for Faith and Freedom, visit faithandfreedom.com.